Good afternoon to this Wednesday's thought for the week. I want us to continue thinking about Abraham. We started to look at Abraham last week, of how he left to go to a place where God was going to lead him. He didn't know how to get there, didn't know what would be there, but he simply trusted in God to take him to the place where he wanted to be. I want to take that on a little bit further, because what we find is that Abraham, he arrived in the promised land. He arrived in Canaan. He arrived in this land that God had promised him. And when he gets there, he's there where God wants him. But then we're told that in the same chapter of chapter 12 that a famine occurs, quite a severe famine. And so what is Abraham going to do? Well, he decides that it would be best to go down into Egypt, to leave where God had placed him and to go down into Egypt. And as he travels to Egypt, he realises his wife Sarah is very attractive and other men might well fancy her. So he says, look, when we get there, you're going to have to say that you're my sister. And I suppose you could say there's half a truth in that because she was his half-sister. And so what we actually find is that he uses his own wisdom. He finds himself in circumstances which he can't do anything about. But instead of waiting and trusting in God, he takes things into his own hands. He uses his own wisdom. And he goes into Egypt, and there, people find his wife attractive. Pharaoh takes her into his palace, etc. Plagues happen, and all sorts of things start to go wrong. And so Pharaoh says, what are you doing? Why are you telling me lies? Take your wife, here's some cattle, some sheep, just get away. And so what we actually find is that he takes things into his own hands. He starts to tell lies, and because of the situation he possibly finds himself in, that impacts then on Pharaoh. And what we actually find is that in the middle of this difficult circumstances which he got no control over, he went by his own wisdom. And when you start going down that route, then you have to try and compensate. For Abraham, it meant telling lies. Why did he need to tell a lie? Because fear had gripped him. So where's his confidence in God? His confidence in God he allowed to go and allowed fear to reign, and therefore he found himself in a situation which we're getting from bad to worse. And so he finds himself in Egypt, things aren't going too well, and he has to leave. Well, what's the lesson we learn from this? Well, one of the big lessons is that, you know what? It's better to be in a famine where God has placed you than to be in a place where there's plenty of everything, but that's not where God's placed you. And again, as we're going through this difficult time of circumstances and situation that we find ourselves in, let's not let fear rob us of the peace that God wants us to have. Let's not lose confidence in God, but let's wait and let's trust in him. For he knows what he's doing. He knows where he's taking us. He knows the end from the beginning. He is the author and the perfecter of our faith. Keep trusting. Let God's peace rule in your lives. God bless.